It has the lowest average Goodreads rating that I've seen in a while. Hooking up in this van, the decor is compared to a giant. It just isn't that romantic. Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to read 5 festive Kindle Unlimited romances in just 24 hours. I'm really excited to have you guys on this journey with me. We are reading the Under the Mistletoe Collection, available on Amazon for Kindle Unlimited users. So first up, I'm going to tell you a little bit about this short story collection. It has some amazing romance authors featured in it. So this is the pitch for it. I have it open on my laptop so I can tell you guys about it. Spice up the holidays with 5 short stories. Curl up by the fire with some of today's hottest authors as they serve enough holiday sweetness and sizzling spice to melt the frostiest heart. As the temperature drops, friends and neighbors might need to turn up the heat, and even old enemies just might get a second chance. Get ready to tingle all the way. This is so cheesy, I love it. I have been so excited to read this since I saw it drop on Amazon. To make things interesting, I think I'm going to be reading the Hazelwood book last. So we're going to start at the bottom with Only Santa's in the Building. This is a 91-minute read, and basically we have a comic book illustrator whose late night naughty fantasies become real. To begin this challenge, I'm going to be reading Only Santa's in the Building in a restaurant with my lunch. And I thought it would be fun to just go out today for a bit of a walk and food, and then we're gonna come back and proceed. I'm only going to count the hours that I'm actively reading because I think that makes the most sense. I don't want to treat these challenges as an excuse to just burrow in my bed and not leave my room, not eat, not sleep, not do anything. I think that's very impractical. So instead, I'm going to be looking at the hours that I spend reading or listening to the audiobook version of these stories. In case you don't know, sometimes these ebooks will have audiobooks that accompany them, and I noticed that this is also available in the Kindle app for me for this collection in particular. And so I'm really excited to just listen to the audiobooks at times when I'm feeling a little more fatigued with reading. I'm going to manually time myself on my phone and take note of how long I spend reading each of these books. I know the estimated time is approximately 1.5 hours to 2 hours per ebook, but as a slow reader, this might take me a little longer. And I also want to show you guys my Christmas tree earrings. So I'm wearing these really cute festive earrings that I got here in Hong Kong. And I've also decided to wear these Christmassy socks. I thought they would be really, really cute. There's a little cat. And I have 2 more pairs, so I figured that I could wear them in my other Christmas book videos. Okay, so I have now finished reading Only Santa's in the Building. It took me 36 minutes, you guys. I think Amazon's estimate for how long it'll take is actually meant for people who are even slower readers than me, because it said it would take me 91 minutes and it has taken me 36 minutes. And I wasn't trying to read fast. I was literally just, going at my own pace, having a fun time. So I would say this is a really sweet romance between a freelance comic book illustrator and her software engineer neighbor. Something they both bond about is the fact that they both have a terrible work-life balance. So they both get very obsessed with their projects during deadline season, and they just kind of fall down this rabbit hole of just working constantly. And I think it is nice that they both acknowledge that it isn't healthy, but it's also a way for them to relate to each other. And as someone who has been there with just getting obsessed with a thing and just mindlessly working on it for hours on end, I was also relating pretty hard. I mean, it's kind of how I ended up where I am with my health, if I'm being honest. I think the story had a little bit more depth than I was expecting, considering it's so short. Evie is grieving her dead grandmother, who meant a lot to her. She originally moved in with her grandmother to look after her, and then her grandmother died from a stroke, and so this is the first Christmas that she is celebrating without her. I think the romance would really have hit harder if it was just a longer book. I think it's around 65 pages, and I didn't check that before picking it up. But now that I've read it, I really think that there wasn't enough space to organically build that chemistry. I checked the Goodreads rating just now, and it is also a bit low, and I think that could be the reason why. We have a lot of cookie cutter scenes and dialogue where the characters are saying or doing things which are present in a lot of rom-coms, in terms of the way her sister is giving a certain kind of advice, or the things that the character is thinking, but there are also certain scenes like at the end, you know, the love interest is obviously making it clear to her that this isn't just a one-night stand for him. And I don't think that's a spoiler because in most romance novels, you know, they end with a happily ever after. That is like the whole purpose of the story, to get to the happily ever after. But because we aren't with these characters for a very long period of time, we're just sort of stuck seeing this very quick, you know, very quick and sudden growth from like, oh, we're neighbors, to, oh my god, we want to tear each other's clothes off, to, oh my god, I think I'm falling for him. And yeah, it isn't presented in such an extreme way where she's immediately like, oh, I love you. It's much slower than that, but we still don't see enough interactions between them and conversations to really believe that, you know, they really want to be together. Like, I just think that there needs to be more to make it more believable, rather than just kind of a cut and paste of a certain kind of trope that you will see in a lot of books in this genre. And of course, there is one sex scene, so if you aren't comfortable reading that, I think it's pretty obvious like where that's going, you know, so it's easy to skip it if you don't want to. Overall, I think this is a very cute read. I just finished a 400+ page fantasy novel for my last vlog, so I was really looking for something that was light and fun, Christmassy, cheerful, and this honestly like ticked all of those things for me. I just like wanted more. I definitely don't regret reading it though, and we are going to dive into the next story now. It's called Merriment and Mayhem, so let's see how that goes. I don't know if this is going to slow me down too much, but I thought I would download the Audible audiobook onto my Kindle. I've never done this, so I'm kind of like, I don't know how this works. It looks like the audiobook is loaded, so I guess we'll try that out. Hi guys, I finished reading Merriment and Mayhem and I read it in 21 minutes. Yeah, you heard me right. I don't know what this reading vlog is turning into. I thought this was going to take me longer, and honestly, if this short story was a full-length novel, I would have DNF'd it. It was a 2-star read. So in this book, the main character is a UX designer. I was noticing it because it was one of the professions I was originally considering when I pursued a computer science degree. But anyway, it doesn't matter that much. The love interest is a very sexy firefighter, which does matter because he ends up coming to her rescue every time something goes wrong. She's falling off the roof, he shows up. There's a fire that she starts by accident while baking, he shows up. So it's really great that he's able to help her in that way. And I do understand how good it must feel to have a man who just shows up and is very like dependable and reliable. However, I do wish that the story had gone beyond that dynamic of, oh, there's this handsome man saving this woman and that's, you know, why she's falling hard for him. Something else that I noticed is that the main character's grandmother has also recently died in this story. Now, this is incredibly tragic, yes, but this is the exact same plot point that was in the other story that I just read, and it's just making the vibe, the feel of it too similar. I don't like that. I think considering that they're all meant to be part of this collection, the writers should have been aware of what each of them was working on and avoided making it too similar, because then the tone is just, it's almost like you're reading a version of the same story over and over, and that's something that I don't like doing. I guess the best way of putting it is that the smut was good and the actual story was mid. So make of that what you will. I'm reading All by My Elf for the next story, and it has the lowest average Goodreads rating that I've seen in a while. It's 2.68 in case you're wondering. I honestly don't have high hopes for this because of that, but hey, maybe I'm a dark horse and I'm going to love it. You never know, right? Let's do it. Let's just get on with it. Hey guys, I wanted to give you another reading update. I just finished All by My Elf, and I'm afraid that these are getting progressively worse. This was another solidly 2-star read. The premise is that 3 adjunct professors get a job selling mincemeat pies out of a hot dog van. I know that's a bit of a mouthful, but it's basically because academia is kind of bad for actually giving you enough funding, so they need the money, and that's why they take on this holiday gig. Unfortunately, the 2 main characters who fall for each other also end up hooking up in this van, and considering the decor is compared to a giant penis multiple times, it just isn't that romantic. Like, it was making me cringe. Like, okay, William and Nina as characters are pretty cute together, but the fact that the setting is this van just ruins the forced proximity trope for me. Like, make it a cute cottage, you know? Make it a car even. Like, why did it have to be this ugly, disgusting van? Like, people will literally flash their private parts at them as they drive around in this van. And for the record, I also found it weird that that wasn't really criticized at all. Like, that is basically sexual harassment, and I don't know if this is just like acceptable in, I want to say that this was said in America, but yeah, I was clearly paying a lot of attention to this story. It was so bad that some of the details just like flew over my head. But I don't know, like, they just didn't seem to care that people were doing this kind of thing to them in public, and it's so disgusting. I mean, one of the characters makes jokes about how she wants to flash them back, but I also believe that she was at least a little uncomfortable with the way people would be treating her. I had issues with the way these characters are behaving, considering they're adults in their late 30s. They literally play Never Have I Ever, which is kind of like a drinking game, but they do this while cuddling for the sake of body heat, and then, you know, obviously that ends up with them having sex. But like, it just seemed a bit forced that they're doing this, and then also the way they're even hooking up in a van in the first place. It feels like the kind of behavior that would make more sense if they were in their 20s or if they were teenagers, but as people who are pretty grown up, I just didn't think that they would do that. I feel like I'm coming off pretty grinchy reviewing all of these stories. Like, they're not hitting for me, guys. Like, I'm really hoping the Ali Hazelwood short story is gonna like blow my mind, because so far we have one decent story and two that are just bad. Anyway, I'm going to try reading Merry Ever After next, and hopefully that's going to be a hit. I finished reading Merry Ever After, and literally there is another character named Evie in this story. The overlap is getting ridiculous. I'm just gonna say it. Now, I know the authors might not have been aware of the exact character names that they were each using, and so I'm not entirely blaming them. It's more just that this is something the editor or the publisher, I don't know, someone should have flagged it and been like, oh, this is like kind of confusing, because if you're reading all of these stories in order, which I assume is the goal, considering it's a collection, you would be like thinking of two different characters with the same name. I don't understand why. Like, it's such an obvious thing in my opinion. But anyway, I ended up giving this 2 stars again. Sad. Big sad. I'm literally just at that point where I want to just finish reading these stories and move on from this. I'm done. In this case, the premise is at least kind of unique. We have Evie, a single mom working in a thrift store, and she decides to make jeans for Luke, this farmer. He comes in looking for jeans of his own size, and he just can't find any that work. It's really sweet of her to do this, and Luke is also equally sweet later on in the book. We see him being very paternal and loving towards her child. For instance, he's holding her baby while he eats his dinner, and it really struck me because I've seen a lot of Instagram reels and TikToks about this recently, where moms are forced to hold their baby while they cook and clean and work, and it's just so disappointing because you also see the men in these videos just sitting there with their feet kicked up, doing absolutely nothing to help their wife, the mother of their child. It's so frustrating. Like, I can't believe that more criticism isn't levied at these people for just not stepping up to actually help these women balance the burden of childcare. As you can tell, this is something I care about a bit, so seeing Luke step up and do his bit, even though he doesn't have to, even though he doesn't, you know, owe her anything, like, he's her friend, I guess. I don't know what you'd call someone who you like want to sleep with, obviously, but like, you guys are in a weird place. It's complicated, but he's there for her, right? And that's what I really appreciate. So aside from those brief moments where I was like, oh, this is sweet, I was mostly just bored. I don't want to read any more holiday novellas for a while. I love that we are getting Ali Hazelwood's signature style with sentences like, to which I, a level-headed professional who keeps her cool under pressure, regularly saves people's lives, and sometimes even manages to make it through an entire Pilates class without bursting into tears, eloquently reply, yeah. I mean, that is like such a run-on sentence. It's ridiculous how much I love this. I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but picking up an Ali Hazelwood book is like coming home. It's such a relief. I mean, I don't have high hopes for this novella actually being any good, but I have missed her signature writing style. This breaks my heart. All I could control was my behavior. I needed to be as considerate and high-achieving as possible, and if I accomplished that, maybe people would contemplate sticking around, and if they didn't, I taught myself to be grateful for what they would leave behind. It's just so frustrating that this is what she ended up getting out of her dad, having all of these girlfriends. Like, I think that's something that people don't really consider, how doing those kinds of things affects their children, and you see the backlash of that here with this character. This has got to be the best I'm in love with you speech that I've read in a book in a very long time. Jamie, if anyone is aware of your flaws, it's me. You have the worst taste in TV shows. When you get angry, you get quiet instead of communicating. You care way too much about pleasing the people around you, especially your dad, who absolutely takes advantage of it. You become sleepy and basically useless past 9:30 at night. Oh my god, that is so cute. I see these things, I've always seen them, and I love you because of, not despite them, because they're what makes you you, and I love who you are. Hey guys, good news. I have finished the last book, Cruel Winter with You. Finally a 4-star read. I am so relieved, you have no idea. I think reading this short story is what made filming this entire video worth it, because wow, I needed that. The romance in this story is actually so much stronger than all of the other short stories put together combined. Like, if you only have time to read one story, I would say pick this one. Pick it. The characters basically grew up together and they have this childhood bond, which I think is what distinguishes this from the other romances. They aren't meeting today in the story for the first time. They already have all of these experiences together, and you can see that familiarity in the dialogue that they have. The love interest is Mark. He's a tech billionaire and he falls for Jamie, who is his sister's best friend. And for a long time, that is kind of how their dynamic is defined. They grow up together, spending a lot of time and hanging out, and you know, he teases her, makes fun of her, calls her like weird, gross nicknames, and she does the same for him. Ultimately, I really love that Mark was able to see Jamie's loneliness and the adults that they grow up to become just really need each other. You can see that these are two people who fill the holes in each other's lives, and I think that is the best thing that anyone can do for you in a relationship. I would absolutely have loved to read a full-length version of the story. I am so sad that doesn't exist, but as it is, I am still choosing to give this 4 stars. I do have one complaint though, and it's the fact that Mark was actually collecting photos of Jamie in high school, and while these didn't seem particularly explicit or sexual in nature, I did find it weird that he had that collection and he never apologized for it. And when she found out about it, he actually chose to take another photo of her in that situation instead of asking for permission. I think that's the thing that really bothers me, that she just didn't really have a choice in the matter, and she never protests about it or seems particularly upset, so the whole thing is just glossed over. But towards the end, she actually brings it up, and he tells her that he's been holding on to that collection his entire life. And again, I don't know, it just gave me the ick, for lack of a better way of putting it. I didn't like that he's just been walking around with this collection of photos, and you know, if you think about it, like, they grew up together and he would have seen her in vulnerable situations, and so I just don't like that he was just like turning around and being like, oh, photo, like, that's weird. That's a little weird. That was like the only major flaw that I can really point to, but the way the story is written is so good, and it's so entertaining and fun and interesting and engaging that I'm kind of willing to overlook it, I guess. It's not the kind of behavior that I would expect in a love interest, but perhaps he's not meant to be perfect. Maybe it's okay if he has flaws. So yes, that is a wrap. We started this reading challenge at 1:30 p.m. today on a Thursday, and we are ending it at 8:30 p.m. still on a Thursday. We did it, guys. It is definitely possible to read these 5 short stories within 24 hours, even for someone who considers herself a slow reader. The total time that I actually spent reading was 2 hours and 12 minutes, which is actually a lot less than I expected. You know, I genuinely think that if you were to pick up a short story in this collection, definitely just do the Ali Hazelwood one. I don't think the other stories are really worth your time, but again, if you like rom-coms and you don't mind that a story is just more like fluffy and fun and silly, then yeah, you might still enjoy these more than I did. I ended up taking some breaks throughout today to like go for walks and have food and, you know, just clear my head a little because it is kind of a lot to jump from story to story to story just without breaks. Honestly, with this collection, I think they could have made it a lot better. It felt like they were relying on the authors' names to get people to pick them up and read them rather than choosing to produce stories that are of the quality that they should be. For instance, I have read and loved the work of 3 out of 5 of the authors who were featured in this collection, and so I definitely know that I am capable of enjoying their writing. Like, I know I have picked up one of their books before and been like, wow, that is a 4-star read or that is a 5-star read, and yet I felt like something was lacking with this collection, so I think that is definitely telling. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this reading vlog. I am so excited to do similar videos in the future, so please let me know if there is anything you want to see from me. Comment down below and let me know if there are any holiday rom-coms that you are especially excited to read, or if there are any other books that are currently on your TBR that you cannot wait to get to. Keep reading and have a good day.